In the darkest nights, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Oh, surviving together, victorious, never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you.
Hey, everyone. You found Surviving Together, a safe space for trauma survivors to connect and build community on their healing journey, as well as providing trauma-related education for all. And tonight, well, it looks like Tommy Stiggs stuck his head in for a second and was just a great show. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, Tonight, I am actually ripping something out of the headlines, a story that broke today in the New York Times. And this is about sexual abuse allegations on Errol Musk, who is Elon Musk's father. And it's important to note these are allegations only. There's been no arrests. There's been nothing that's been conclusive. This was an investigative story by the New York Times that broke today. But I think, just coming off of uh, the last show that we were doing about, the sexualization of parent-child relationships, um, this just kind of, goes right along with it. So, without further ado, I am going to put our trigger warning up today because we are going to be talking about childhood sexual abuse. And so I want to make sure that that is up there. So please, if you feel yourself getting anxious, this is not good for your mental health, you're being triggered, take a step back and take care of yourself because that is the most important thing. So, how about a little background on Errol Musk first? Well, first off, who about? Well, let me share my screen with you so you know. This is who we're talking about. This is Errol Musk. He is 79 years old. He is a businessman in South Africa. It looks like that was where he was born, raised, and still lives. He did live in California for a little while with or near Elon, a place that Elon put him up in. But for the most part, he's lived in South Africa. He was married first off in 1970 to a person named May Haldeman, and that is who he had Elon with. Elon's the oldest, and then he had another son and a daughter. And so he had those three children with his first wife. So those are Elon's two full-blooded um, siblings. They eventually divorced in 1979. She did later come out in, and I may get a few details wrong, so I apologize for that. She later came out in either a biography or a news article. It was some interview where she did accuse Errol of physically and verbally abusing her during their marriage. They got divorced in 1979, and it looks like about 10 years later, in 1989, Errol had a brief marriage to a person named Sue Wilson. They had no kids together. Um, like I said, it was a short marriage. So by 1992 is his third marriage. And these are the three women that he had married. And her name was Heidi Marie, and I'm going to butcher this last name. I apologize, but it's Booz Zudenhout. I butchered that, and I apologize. But she had three kids already. She was a widow, and she had three young children that she brought into the marriage. I think two daughters and a son. And then they had another daughter together. And throughout her life, Heidi did have significant mental health issues to the point where, after she had divorced Errol for the first time, because she ended up remarrying him again later, but she had a hospital stay, and her kids went to, her three kids by her first marriage went into the welfare system while she was um, in a mental hospital for a while. Not that that has any bearing on the allegations themselves necessarily, but I am trying to at least give you guys the full picture of the information that's out there. You can make up your own mind as to who you believe. There are always two sides to the story, or some people say three. One person's, the other person's, and then the truth somewhere in the middle. But I want to give you kind of a full idea of the dynamics that were going on in the family. So the first allegation, it looks like, and I'm going to take his picture down now. So it looks like in 1993, so this is the year after Heidi and Errol were first married. The one of the daughters that had come into the marriage, so one of Errol's stepchildren, accused him of touching her. Now, there's not a lot of details as to what kind of touching it was, but it was inappropriate enough that when it was reported to the adults, they did contact social services, and nothing conclusive was found. Nothing came out of that. Now, the police report was requested by the Times, but their request is still pending. They were not released the documents, so they didn't know a whole lot of specifics in regards to this. What we do know is that the charges were later withdrawn as a part of Heidi and Errol's divorce settlement. Hey, Co-Train, how you doing? And I do want to say that the Times investigation, from what they state in their article, is that all of their information has come from police reports, uh, court papers that they were able to get, and interviews with family members, and some texts and emails from family members back and forth that they have reviewed. They didn't actually publish any of these text messages or emails, um, but those are the sources that this is coming from. And the reason I'm going to keep referring back to the New York Times article, I know a lot of different sources have, media outlets have reported on this as of now, but the New York Times is the original source. They're the ones who did the investigation. They're the ones who published the original story. So everybody else is taking their information from the New York Times article. So if you want to read from the original source, go read the New York Times article from today. So at some point after 1993, Heidi and Errol divorced. I wasn't able to find a specific date within the article, but by 1999, they married again and they had another daughter. So they had two daughters together, together in total. And around 2003, they do go to live, or 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. I have to pull up the article again. My notes aren't very clear. They did go to California to live with Elon for a while. Now, it seems like Elon didn't have his father living with him. From what I was able to glean from the article, while although Errol says that they had a very close relationship, Elon has stated that they did not. While although Elon lived with his father even after the divorce from his first wife, from Elon's mother, he lived with him until he was 17. So I think through high school, he stated that they did not have a good relationship. So, you know, you choose who to believe on that. And I'll get into a quote later, another quote that Elon made about his father, once I get done talking about the rest of these allegations. So, hey, Echo. So it in around 2003, and this is while they're in California, the same stepdaughter who had made the allegations in 1993 when she was 4 years old. So the stepdaughter is now 14, said that she caught Errol in her bedroom sniffing her underwear. And apparently there was something filed with the police. Again, nothing came out of it. Apparently, the family was quite concerned about the kids and Errol's inappropriate behavior towards them. Elon did not want his father to have a lot of contact with them, and the family was contemplating moving back to South Africa. And Elon apparently tried to actually keep all the stepkids in California with him. I think even went as far as to like file for petition for legal guardianship. But he was, I don't, it didn't state what the ending of that, like if it was denied or rejected or he just withdrew it, because the family did end up moving back to South Africa. So Errol, Heidi, and the five kids, her first three by her first marriage, and then the two daughters that they had had subsequently. They end up moving back to South Africa, where it looks like she filed for divorce fairly soon after they got back because their divorce was finalized in 2005. The article states that by this time, Errol was financially dependent on Elon and Elon's younger brother, the second oldest in the family, and they were providing most of the financial support. Now, whether they've continued to do that to this day, I don't know. The article didn't state that, but that could be, a reason as to why Errol would, because he's given interviews throughout, the decades, while he why he would portray them as having a close relationship, because he's not going to say anything bad about Elon, who is financially supporting him, or at least taking the lion's share of the financial support. While though his brother was supporting him, his brother wasn't quite as wealthy as Elon, so Elon had a bigger chunk of the change there. Hey, Shell, how you doing? Glad to see you. So, guys, I'm looking at my notes and I wrote them in neon green pen, so lighting isn't that great, so I apologize. as I'm looking down at these. So by 2009, um, again, this is the same stepdaughter who made allegations at 4 and then made those allegations at 14. She's now 21. She had gotten into drugs. She was having, and she's admitted this, I guess, that, she was definitely having problems with drugs, and I'm not sure if it was alcohol as well. And she'd been in and out of rehab. She states that Errol French kissed her, and this is in 2009. Now, apparently, according to the article, Errol had stated that the stepdaughter had come into his bedroom, pounced on him, and had forcibly, inappropriately kissed him. So he's putting it on the person who's claiming to be a victim here. It's unclear exactly when the allegations of abuse of other children were, but at least around the same time, it seems that information came out, or the article seems to indicate that information came out that uh, the stepdaughter said at that time that he had also, Errol had also been abusing his 2 daughters, and I take that to mean by the context, his 2 biological daughters with his 3rd wife, Heidi, so the stepdaughter's biological mom, as well as his stepson. So that would be the stepdaughter's full-blooded brother. Um, Unfortunately, that stepson, died around this time or shortly before or shortly after. He died when he was, like, 16 in a car accident, so, um, can't go to the original source there to ask him about anything. And there was no indication in the article that I could find that was indicating when this alleged abuse was happening. Um, like, was it happening all their lives, or was that just the past year and she had just found out about it? So I don't have any context for that as to how much or how often it was going on. But the stepdaughter makes the allegation that he was abusing the 2 other daughters and the stepson. Then in around 2018, I'm going to say 2017 to 2019, somewhere in there, because there seems to be some conflicting dates within the article. The stepdaughter, who is now about 29 at this point in time, has, I'm going to put this in quotes just because of the type of channel that we are and what we understand about trauma, voluntarily was intimate with her stepfather, with Errol. Apparently, in a news article, Errol had admitted that this did happen and said that they were uh, 2 lost and lonely people, and one thing led to another, and maybe it was part of God's plan. Uh, Again, I don't care that she's 29. She's still your stepdaughter. I mean, even if you've got, I know technically at that point they weren't she wasn't the stepdaughter because her the parents had divorced again, but this is still somebody you raised, like, while they were young for extended periods of time. You're still a father figure to this person. So to me, there's no justification that he could put on this to make it okay. I don't care if you're lonely. you got a hand, or there's other women out there, right? Yeah, still creepy, right, Coach Train? Hey, Audrey. Oh, I'm so glad you're listening. I was when this came up and I found out that he was South African, well, because Elon's South African, right? I was interested in having your perspective and to see if you had ever heard anything about this, you know, since you're from there. Again, I want to note that not that it matters and not that it gives us any cause not to believe the validity of any of the stepdaughter's allegations um, from the time that she was in her late teens. She did suffer from drug abuse and homelessness, was in and out of rehabs, and had a really hard time getting clean. She supposedly has said that the reason that she fell into drugs in the first place was because of her childhood trauma. Now, what all she means by that, other than those two instances that I listed when she was 4 and she was 14, we don't know. Um, you can surmise if if he was verbally and physically abusive to his first wife, as she claims, that perhaps he could have been the same with his stepkids. Elon has said that his father was very strict. Um, Related an incident where I think he was in school, I think grammar school, and he got into a fight with a bully and he lost. And he said he came home and his father berated him for a full hour because of it, because he had lost. So he sounds like a very strict man. Um, but I'm not going to attribute any personality traits to him other than what I'm stating from other people, uh, because there is nothing definitive on the record. But regardless of the stepdaughter's drug abuse and issues that, personal issues that she was having at this time, I would really say because of those issues, in addition to the fact that you've been a father figure to this person. I mean, that's just kind of taking advantage of yet another vulnerability aspect. And what ends up happening is Errol and the stepdaughter have a child. They had a son. Now, in some reports, Errol has stated that they had two kids. She stated that they just have one kid. So I don't know what the truth is, but we can definitely say that they at least had one child, a son. Which ew, ew. Now, how the raising went, whether she was living with him or they were living apart and he was helping to raise the son slash grandson, kind of, not not clear on that. But by 2022, so this is when the son that the stepdaughter and Errol had together, when he was about 5, he said that Errol had groped his behind, and he protested, and a report was made. Errol states that it's utter nonsense. He's denied any of the other accusations of abuse, stating it was people putting things in the kids' minds and they're making it up. And I mean, pretty much your standard standard excuses that you hear. I'm not going to bear judgment on one side or the other because I don't have a full set of facts. But from everything that we're gleaning here, for me, not looking good on Errol's side in terms of where I land on, is he guilty of these other accusations as well? His pattern of behavior shows that he very well might be, and that, in my opinion, kind of probably is. And that, I guess there's been multiple family members who have come forth and have, if not outright stated, that they were aware or are aware or were made aware of some abuse, that they were certainly concerned about potential inappropriate behavior. It's looking that way, Co-Train. It's looking that way, that he was not a real upstanding citizen. It it's I'm sure more will end up coming out in the coming weeks and months. To date, meaning as of now, Elon has not made any public statements in reaction to the article. He was reached out, um, but his camp has not made any statements in reaction to this right now. Uh, Nor has any of the other family come out since the article's been published today and like made an official statement. So the last thing I want to note on this is they did pull the article, a quote that Elon made in a 2017 Rolling Stone interview that he did. And in it, Elon said his dad has done, quote, almost every evil thing you could possibly think of. So you combine everything that we know about where abuse usually happens. 95, 90 to 95% of it is either within the home, with extended family members, or somebody closely associated with the family. You not only have one allegation of abuse, two allegations of abuse, then the stepdaughter making an additional at least three allegations of abuse because she alleged that he abused the two full-blooded sisters that Elon had with his third wife, as well as the stepson with that wife. So if there's only one instance each, which it sounds like she was intimating more because it was sexually abusing. And then you have him having a child with his adult ex stepdaughter. At least I'll be proper on their legal relationship to each other, who at the time is having a lot of problems with drugs. I think it's safe to say she was probably having mental issues as well, because most people aren't doing drugs and are like, totally, fully mentally functioning and all there. And there's some people who don't, have any issues they're working through and they just toke on the weekends or something. But to the severity of her in and out of rehab, homeless, stealing, apparently she, stole from family as well to support her habit. I mean, it sounds like this is a significant drug abuse issue. You're going to have mental problems that are going along with that, along with being really an authoritative figure, and prime target for somebody to take advantage of. I mean, she's got multiple vulnerabilities. And the fact that he's admitted that, yeah, they have had at least one child together, yeah, you kind of put it all together and it does not look good for Errol. Now, I imagine that the statute of limitations has run on pretty much all of this, save for maybe the the groping of the son that he had with the stepdaughter, because that was just 2022. So that was just 3 years ago. So unless, I don't know um a whole lot about South African law, so I can't say for certain as to what their statute of limitations are, but I think they're less than the United States. So I'm pretty sure that it's already passed and there's, no hope of him being, brought up on charges on any of this past abuse. So who knows? Um, from my reading, and maybe I missed it, it didn't seem like there was a resolution to this 2022. I think the social workers came out and there was inconclusive evidence or something like that. And so nothing has become of that. There's not a police report that is being currently investigated, to my knowledge. Again, at least according to the article, because that's all I have to go on right now. So Train says, no need for rehab if you're smoking pot. Possibly. There are people who get addicted, though. There are definitely people who get addicted. Now, I would say majority can just, recreationally smoke marijuana. But there is a section of the population who get addicted and then it affects their daily life and their ability to function. And that's when we say that, that you have an issue, right? But I think for most people, they can work with it. But no, from the sounds of it, from everything that the Times reported, the stepdaughter had a serious drug problem. And it didn't say, what drug, and it could be a multitude of them. But she was certainly a vulnerable um, part of a vulnerable population. And the fact that she says that, she fell into drug abuse because of childhood trauma, I mean, that's, I won't say the number one coping skill, but it's a coping skill of a lot of people who have childhood trauma. So it's a reasonable explanation as to why she got into drugs. And if we kind of put everything together from what Elon has said about his father, what his first wife said about him, can people change? Yes, they can change. However, with these allegations coming out, I won't say year after year, but consistently throughout the years, there's been allegations. It doesn't sound like he, changed all that much. And from any statements that he's given, he's pretty much, denied any blame in doing anything. It's either nonsense or um, blame the victim or, well, we were two adults. We were two lost, lonely people. We were adults. She wasn't my stepdaughter at the time, and things happened. One thing led to another, is what he said. You put all that together, yeah, where are my thoughts? Not looking good for Errol. Hold on. I don't want to lose my stream. My battery, my charger cord fell out. There we go. Hang on, guys. I don't want to lose the stream. My connection got pulled apart. Sorry about that. So yeah, that was the big story today that I was gonna do some trauma talk, and then that hit this morning and I went, holy camole. Um, I don't always touch upon, every story that comes out that has something to do with trauma, particularly sexual abuse allegations. But this one just it struck me for one because we were just talking about the sexualization of parent-child relationships, and two, you have somebody who is fairly high profile, mainly because of his sons. I mean, it sounds like he was fairly successful in business himself when he was younger. Whether he's supporting himself in current days, I don't know. Like I said, I think by around 2007-ish or whatever, he was relying on his two eldest sons for money. And from all accounts, Elon has done a lot financially to support his now ex stepmother, but to support his step siblings. Um, it looks like his two siblings, by his full blooded siblings, the original three, have all been successful in their own right. Um, Not as financially successful as Elon. Um, I keep going Elon. It's Elon, right? Yeah, It's an E, not an A. Elon. Um, but it sounds like he's tried to do right by them, particularly given the fact that when he was, from the article, that when he was finding out that things weren't quite kosher, he was trying to keep the kids in California and was like, hey, just leave them here. I'll raise them, and get him away from his father. And the stepmom could stay, or even if she was to move back to South Africa, he's like, the kids can stay, I'll take care of them. And that he's tried to do what he can. They did release a little snippet of, I don't know if it was a text or an email or a letter, but some correspondence between Kimball, who is Elon's younger brother, the second oldest in the whole series of kids, and is just basically said to Elon, I'm so sorry that you've had to bear the brunt of all of dad's mistakes, basically, not just financially, but the pain and the frustration of dealing with all of this. So it seems like there was definite discord within the family. An aunt came out and recently, I think it was the third wife's sister, came out and backed up the allegations of abuse. And honestly, I forget exactly which ones she was referring to because there's been so many. I'm not sure if she was backing up the stepdaughter's allegations about the abuse of her siblings, or if it was just about about the stepdaughter herself. Yeah, co-train. This is the first, since I never knew any of this. So this is the first that I have ever heard of it. And I guess Elon. Oh, I will say Elon. Elon has spoken about his family, but he hasn't gotten into too much detail it seems like other than kind of these one or two statements which give you a little bit of an insight like into his early life, into what he thinks about his father. Um, so I have no idea. I think it was because of this aunt. She did an interview on a podcast anonymously, I think, at first. And I think it was because of that that the Times investigator tracked her down and then got her to come on record with them and restate like her allegations and stuff. And then the whole investigation, the Times investigation snowballed from there, culminating in the article that was placed today. So if you do read more about this, I encourage you look at the media source and see where they're getting their information from. Because if they make an allegation about something, they should say as reported by the Times or as noted in court documents or something of that nature. I think it is important because with Elon being a high profile figure and a divisive figure, right? I mean, there are people who really love him and there's people who really hate him. With this being his father, it would be easy for some less reputable media outlets to say, according to someone close to the family, they said X or Y. So that's why I say if there are future allegations that are made, consider the source because I can see this snowballing, right? Whereas people just jumping on the bandwagon and maybe wanting to get their $100 for an interview or, unfortunately, the world does work that way. So just do your due diligence in terms of whether you're choosing to believe anything beyond what was in the article. And again, I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just taking the information that was reported in the article, reporting it to you, and giving you my opinion on it. You may have a different opinion. Yes, Coltrane, as far as I was able to discern, he is still alive. He's currently 79 years old. So getting up there, definitely getting up there. His Heidi was 19 years his junior, so his third wife. So she's still much younger. She's still got a she's still got a ways to go. And again, I don't know what the current situation is with the stepdaughter and her son that she had with Errol, whether they're, on their own, if Errol's still involved in their life at all. Um, that information wasn't released. But I can definitely see more information coming out in the following weeks and months. Um, and it will just be up to us to look at who's reporting it, what's their reporting source. Is it filling in details of what was already reported? Are they new allegations? And we'll have to, kind of make a decision from there. So, not a topic that or a story that I plan on covering more unless something, explosive comes out. If Elon comes out with a huge statement about all of this, I would definitely do an update on this. But I think that it does go to we never know. You never know who could potentially be a predator out there. And that's the thing is that they're all ages, they're all sexes, they're all genders, they're of all religions, they're of all income levels. all cultures, there there's, anyone can be a victim, and predators come in all shapes and sizes. And so it's not limited to, the boogeyman, or, that weird guy driving the Econoline van, right? That was in the 80s, that was like the stereotypical kidnapping van. And so that was stranger danger, especially, doesn't have to be that guy who approaches you at the park looking for a lost puppy. Um, Most of the time, it's going to be somebody that you know. And so I think it's a huge reminder that status, privilege, country of origin, um, none of it is discerning factors as to who makes a predator. And it's very unfortunate. And I'll be interested to see if Elon does respond to this. My guess is he's not going to make an official statement, or if he is, it's going to be something, pretty short and concise. I don't see him delving into this in any great detail to respond to. Um, if I was in his shoes, I wouldn't. I mean, there's nothing that he can do about that. And from a public image standpoint, he probably wants to distance himself from these allegations against his father as far as he can. So sounds like he likes them young, Crystal. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the allegations are when the kids were younger, um, except for, well, there's the instance of smelling the 14-year-old's underwear, which is just weird. I know some people are into that, but that's just outside of my comfort zone. Um, and then sleeping with his 29-year-old ex stepdaughter. I just, but yet you have Woody Allen and Mia Farrow, their adopted daughter, who once she was an adult, they ended up marrying. They're still married, as far as I know. And I know that was when that happened, I remember that happening, and that was a huge whoop-de-doo. Nobody talks about it anymore. People still love Woody Allen films, still think he's, an incredible director. People still want to be part of his films because he made many, many, many films after that scandal broke. Um, there were allegations that he groomed her or that he was inappropriate with her before she turned 18, but nothing was ever proven. Um, it just it happens. It happens, and it happens more than we would like to admit, I'm sure. Um, within the family, and it's really hard for these victims to come forward because, as we've spoken from a victim's standpoint, these are the people that they're relying on for their housing and their, food and their comfort, and often they're threatened, whether implicitly or explicitly. And some, depending on how old they are, they may know that, if I tell, then I'm gonna get taken away, or parents gonna get taken away. I'm gonna break up the family. People are gonna be mad at me. There's a lot of reasons. We just covered this. There's just so many reasons why victims don't disclose, especially kids. And I think that's why it's so important for us to believe kids when they do disclose to us, because I think 9.9 times out of 10, their allegations are going to be true. I think it is like 1% of, and all they can do is based on reported. So these are allegations that are actually reported to police, but only 1% of those are found to be false allegations. It's very, very small, guys. Very, very small. So if somebody comes to you, believe them. Let that be your first reaction towards them. Support them. Try and get them help. I think it's extremely important. Hey, Gianni, how you doing? Yeah, his third wife was much younger than him. Like I said, I think 19 years younger than him. I don't know how old he was at the time that he married her. I'd have to do the math, but I think maybe he was in his 50s when he married her. Well, if he's 79, 1993, it's like 20. Yeah, so he was like in his 50s. So yeah, she would have been in her late 20s, probably, maybe 30, something like that. So she was pretty young, pretty young. So yeah, pretty shocking story. We'll see where things go from here. Again, I don't anticipate that there would be any charges forthcoming from this, given the age of most of the allegations. But we'll see. I mean, with this article, maybe there'll be some renewed interest in regards to the most recent allegations from 2022 in regards to the son that he had with the stepdaughter. We'll just have to see. I thought it was interesting that Crystal said in Canada there are no statute of limitations. And I remember this from covering the Canadian hockey trial, that there are no statute of limitations on sexual assault cases in Canada. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. In the past 5 years or so, the United States has really, um, a lot of states, not all of them, have really started to look at this issue. Most who have looked at it seriously have removed any statute of limitations for bringing civil claims. So this is directly against the person, it's not criminal charges. So being able to bring a claim for monetary damages, for emotional distress, for the trauma, for the acts themselves. And of the people who have looked at the states that have looked at changing their laws, a lot of them have removed the statute of limitations in regards to allegations of childhood sexual abuse. So even if they're reported as an adult, if the allegation was from when they were a child, the statute of limitation doesn't apply. Or they've done something like they've put a discovery rule on it, which means, 2 years from the time that you realize that there was an issue. So this would be especially for people who have repressed memories or fragmented memories, who um, didn't acknowledge that there was um, a trauma before a certain point of time in their life. They've got 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or whatever from that point to bring criminal charges. Um, some have stated 10, 15, 20 years from the age of majority, was in that state, which usually ranges from 16 to 18, because they're talking age of majority, age of consent. um, which is anywhere from 16 to 18, depending on what state you're in. So different states have handled it different ways. Uh, it's it's interesting. Um, I'm hoping in the next 5 years that the other states that haven't relooked at their laws, that they do, and that they come around to having a more equitable, say, equitable legal system, to have more favorable laws for survivors to be able to bring their claims, knowing that the trauma that is so significant, especially in childhood, that most people aren't divulging to anyone until like 20 years afterwards. So this gives them a chance to actually have some justice once they've, are on their healing journey and have started actually addressing the trauma, maybe even just recognizing it for what it was for the first time later on in life. Johnny says the whole Musk family is ooh. Yeah, Gianni, I agree. This says knock up a daughter, whether a step or not, you're a sick. And, you know, even though it even though she was 29, even though at that point she was an ex stepdaughter, you're still a father figure in that person's life. 2018, if he was like 70. Blech. Nothing against 70-year-olds. And she had drug abuse issues. And I'm going to go out on a limb here again and say most likely mental health issues. Oh, wow, Jess, I was surprised that it was either my state, Massachusetts, or Connecticut. Just a couple days ago, they passed a legislation that you cannot marry a first cousin. That law should be understood. Uh, yeah, I think it was New Jersey. They repealed the law, and I don't know whether they've reenacted it or not. They had actually repealed their law that no, because it's them in Rhode Island. I'm Anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. I did cover this on another live, but I'm pretty sure it's New Jersey and Rhode Island are the only two states in the United States where consenting adults can have sex regardless of their familial relation. So, brother, sister, father, daughter, whatever, as long as you're both consenting, voluntary adults, it's not against the law. I'm 99% sure that I'm correct on that, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm out of water, guys. I'm out of water and it's 7 o'clock. So I guess that's that. Hey, listen, all. If you have not gotten the notice, today is Jimena's birthday. Magic of Healing, Jimena. She is having a birthday today. Happy, 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 happy birthday to her and the Gen X effect. are going to be live at 11 p.m. Eastern. I know it's pretty late for those of us who, basically go down with the sun, but they are having a celebration show on the Gen X FX channel. I think it's on his channel. Um, and they'll be doing a birthday celebration. I know Clint's got some wonderful surprises for her. So if you can stop by, check that out and wish Jimena a happy birthday. If you miss her today and you didn't see her earlier, if you see her tomorrow, you can wish her a happy belated birthday. And then guess what, everybody? A week from today, it's Earth. I didn't realize it. I mean, I knew when my birthday was, but I didn't realize it was so soon until I wished Jimena a happy birthday this morning and went, oh, wait a minute. Mine's in 1 week. So, as far as I know, we're still having a live because, last year my son forgot my birthday. Actually, his girlfriend ended up reminding him like on his way home from work. I think he quick scooped it in and grabbed a card and like some flowers or something. It was hilarious. I mean, he's a young kid. What are you gonna do? I'm not gonna remind him about it. So yeah, birthdays after 50, they do sneak up on us. I know. I'm gonna be 53, guys. I'm not having it. I'm just not having it. I'm an even number gal myself for one thing, and so being 53 just doesn't square with me. But also, it's just like creeping to that 55, which when you get past 55, you're close to 60. And it's like, no, I haven't found someone to spend the rest of my life with yet. Come on, I'm 53. Ah, it'll happen in due time because it will happen when I'm not even looking. So that's why I'm not dating because if I'm dating, I'm looking. So I'm not doing that. So we'll see. Hopefully Thendo sings me a song. Oh, if I could only be so lucky. We'll see. Maybe I'll pop in, make sure to put it on my schedule to put Thendo on my schedule for next week just to make sure that he can sing me a song. Maybe he'll even do his construction worker dance as well. If he's okay after his colonoscopy tomorrow, which I'm not stating anything that anybody doesn't know if they weren't in his live stream today, because that's all he talked about. And I gotta say, Gianni, what in the world is going on in your neck of the woods where everybody is just like, oh, yeah, you're going to be Looney Tunes after you get up? What kind of drugs do they give you? They give us like this little light sedative, and I woke up and it's like, okay, and you move on. I mean, I wasn't even loopy. I walked out on my own accord. I could have driven myself home, and they won't let you have a driver, but I could have driven myself home. I was totally fine. I'm like, what is Noel talking about? Where he's just like, you're gonna be, babbling gibberish and like when people to come back from the dentist and they've had their teeth removed, and they're all they must give you the good drugs on the East Coast. They certainly they certainly don't hear. Oh my God, grateful. Oh, she says I was given Valium for one of them. I woke up in the middle of it and asked my doc what was on the screen. Oh, Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. There is an author, her name is Mary Roach, and she's written a whole series about basically it's your body and you, and she's done it from one end to the other, literally, and she's covered every system that there possibly is in your body. But she's funny. She definitely gets all the information across. She's a medical doctor, I do believe. Um, if she's not, she's been doing the medical research for forever. And it's fascinating if you're interested in the body at all, but the way she talks about it, it's hilarious. But for one of her books, she actually requested to be awake during her colonoscopy so she could report on it. And supposedly she did, and she talked to the doctor throughout her entire colonoscopy, asking what was on the screen. And I'm surprised she didn't have like a little notepad taking notes as she was doing it. I kind of woke up during my wisdom tooth a little bit too. That was actually a couple of times. I'm a hard one to put under with drugs. My body metabolizes certain drugs really quickly. So they've got to know that ahead of time when they're planning on planning on putting me out. But all right, guys. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, we'll do a follow up if there's anything huge that breaks with this. But otherwise, I thought it was an interesting story to bring to your attention. Not a lot of people were talking about it today, and uh, again, just goes to show you they're everywhere. They are everywhere. So have a good night, guys. Remember, you are loved. Let me start that again. You are worthy. You are valuable, and you are loved just the way you are for who you are. So hugs and love from me. Mwah. I will see you Saturday at 3 p.m. I'll get my thumbnail up here in the next couple of days, and enjoy the outro. Surviving together, never alone. Bye, guys.
Through the fire, through the rain, we have walked through endless pain. But we stand, we rise again. Stronger now, we break the chain. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. Every tear, every scar tells the story of who we are. Not just survivors, but warriors too. With love as our armor, we see this through. We see you, we hear you, and we believe in you. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. We see you, we hear you, and we believe Mm.